Hello traders, welcome back to my channel. Trading with Kings is signing in. Today's video I'll be bringing to you a very simple trendline strategy and a backtest on go. Right, so this strategy is to show you guys how we use trend lines to be able to catch good trading setups. I'm going to be going a little bit further by doing a top-down analysis starting from the bigger time frame, which is the daily, where I mark out the daily trend line like this, and I'll show you guys how when price react once, twice from a trend line zone, we start getting opportunities from the third touch, and we are able to catch massive moves like that. And when price goes and then comes back the fourth time, we are going to be catching moves. So I will share with you guys errors that most trendline traders commit, and then you are going to see how you can drop further to smaller time frame like this, and then you'll be able to, even from the 30 minutes time frame, you should be able to 15 minutes, 5 minutes, to be able to connect your trend lines as well and expect price to come back to these key zones where we usually consider to be areas of entry. And you are going to realize that there is a way in which trend lines play out, and if you understand that, okay, price usually respect this trend line a couple of times, you are going to always find good trading opportunities while catching these moves, right? And then having high risk to reward ratio trades while just using your trend line. So you see that when we connect like this, these zones can guide us that when price comes back after rejecting maybe once, twice, from the third time you start having good trading opportunities, it goes up, and then you realize that trend lines can act as both support and resistance, right? If you know how to connect them the way I usually do, which I'm going to be sharing with you, you are going to see very easy that as price comes back, you start seeing kind of reactions where that will give us what entries. So this is just a demonstration of what I'm going to be sharing with you, how trend lines actually act as support and resistance for price in many many times where you can catch high rewards through reward risk to reward ratio trades like this, as you can see. Alright, so make sure you watch the video to the end. If this is your first time coming across my channel, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel. You can check in this video description below in the pinned comment, join our free Telegram channel where you are going to get free analysis and then free content. Alright, so see you after the intro. So trend lines are basically a way of identifying dynamic support and resistance, right? So in uptrending markets and downtrending markets, you can easily find trend line acting as resistance in zones or support in areas where price will come back to react a couple of times. So you see that once price will start creating higher highs and higher lows in good market situations, you will usually see that price will usually come back sometimes to react like from the third time they're starting to give us setups, right? And there are times where trend lines can be formed, trend lines can be formed in a way that you can find trend line in an uptrending market. You can still find a trend line that acts as kind of resistance. Okay, it can act like a resistance where we usually connect like this, and you are going to realize that when price goes up to that zone, you usually reject, and sometimes it form what we call channels, right? There are ways in which you can trade trend line breakout even from the trend lines that are drawn from above. Let me say for the uptrending market situations, right? For the downtrending market, you could always see just the simple reverse of what we are simply explaining here. That's why you see that from the example that I'm going to be sharing with you, you are going to see how we draw trend lines on both sides. Okay, so if you see a market structure like this, it's already obvious that price is in an uptrend. Okay, this is a high, right? We are doing a top-down analysis. So this low actually created this high, pullback created the next low, created the next high. So we call this a trough. The zone up, we call it a peak, P-E-A-K, right? These are the peaks of this price. So what we want to do is we want to be connecting these troughs together, because when price rejects here and comes rejects, it already gives us a clue that something is happening here, right? So at this point in time, what we want to do, we want to be connecting these lows here, right? These are the lows that actually created these zones. Now we have many schools of thought when it comes to trend lines. Some people prefer drawing two trend lines at a time, maybe drawing like this, okay, which is not still bad, so that it should be a zone, not just a single line. Okay, so meanwhile I might choose to draw just like this, so that when price comes back from the third time, I will start to be looking my trades or taking from my trades. Now most times I realize that when you connect and get these touches at the top, right, price will usually come back, and most often it will reject the trend at the trend line where we have price just touching the troughs of the trend lines. So at this point, if you are waiting, the simple thing you need to do here is simply wait for price to pull back to this zone for you to be taking your trades, right? But now if you look at it critically, you see that above here we have kind of horizontal, we have another zone here which we can draw like this. Okay, we can draw like this. You can see there that price has been rejecting a couple of times. When we drop to a smaller time frame, we are going to see how that plays out. Okay, now you see at we are on the H4 time frames and we just dropped to a smaller time frame, you see now there are people who consider this to be trend line, right? So if you replay this, you see that some people will consider this to be a trend line above, which price has not broken 1, 2, 3 times. So by the time price got here, this was an entry opportunity for some people, right? You see that in some cases they are going to be taking their trades there, considering this to be a breakout. But now this is a little dangerous because price is only in an impulsive phase where they'll be looking to buy and price could be retracing. So we usually prefer that, okay, wait for price to go up first, while some people could still take their trades here, buy here, maybe target these zones here, okay, and then wait for price to pull back, right? So now we are waiting for price to pull back to our levels where we identify, which are these zones here, right? Some people might go on to place maybe limit orders, buy limit order like that, okay, and then they're just waiting for price to come back, hit on their zone for them to get executed like this. Now you can see that price comes back to the trend line here, which acts as boot support and resistance. Like at this zone level here, we see that this zone was initially a support and it became resistance, right? And then sometimes you take our trade based on that. You see how it actually respected the zone, because now this is both a support becoming resistance, and you see now the price respected. Now you see what I was talking about, the trend lines. Now I initially used the trend line that was below, which I usually consider to be the one that just get the touches around the tips of the candle. So I'll consider this, that if you were trading based on a smaller time frame or on a bigger time frame, like a swing trade, it would have been a good trade. One of these trades in a week, guys, will give you a lot of pips, guys. How many pips is this going to give you? If you are going to wait for a very long time to get this number of pips, right, 228 pips, right, or more than, you see, that's going to be massive, right? So at this point in time, what you simply need to do now is to just extend your trend line, because already we have a trending market here that is playing out. So we extend our trend line like that, we wait for price to come back to that zone. Remember, this is a bigger time frame, so based on this bigger time frame, you see you could get this high here as your TP1, and you can extend even up there, and you should get a very high risk to reward ratio trade while you are waiting for price to pull back. Now while waiting for price to pull back like that, you are going to realize that price at some point will start creating other zones, right? Price will start creating some other zones in which you can still strike, considering maybe just plotting out your trend line on them, because you see that these zones here are going to act as, you know, potential something in the future. All right, so at this point in time, you could see that some people are going to consider buying from here, from this zone here, maybe as price comes now, maybe based on a smaller time frame, though it acts like a chart pattern here. Some people are going to consider this to be a trend line breakout where price comes rejected on the trend line, and then they're going to be taking that buy here, right? We are not just limiting ourselves to one trend line. Once price rejecting a zone once, twice, thrice, it can either act as a trend line for us to be selling, or it could be a breakout where we can get a trading setup from there. All right, at this point in time, you see that some people are going to catch moves here by buying around those zones there. Okay, so when they enter around those zones there, what would they do? They will just expect to catch that scalping move. Remember, this is kind of a scalping move in which if you go to a smaller time frame, like maybe the 15 minute, you are going to see that that's a complete trading setup right there. Okay, I think this just played out too much, right? Look at this, look at the zone that we're actually looking at. So this was a trend line breakout here, which we had to consider, because at this point in time price moved up powerfully, and price was actually respecting for a while before it finally broke out. If we adjust to make sure we get those touches normally, right, like look at, you can see how I draw my trend line. I make sure I get the touch, I make sure I connect it, and if you look at it very well, you see that you could still have sold, right? Remember, the bias could be any way, because at this point in time, while price is pulling back here in the 15 minute, we are seeing price getting lows, getting series of lows, right? So from here, once it rejects twice, from the third time, this could still be a trading opportunity here where you catch that move there. And then as price, well, I'm just giving you guys a complete strategy on how to trade trend lines, not limiting you to one particular time frame, the daily or the H4, whatever, right? Because this can act as possibilities for you. So when it breaks out, you can see now that when price come here, most probably we are going to sell, right? So let's call a spade here. We are going to sell because we have gotten that rejection here. All right, we are going to sell here because we got that rejection. And what happened? We get stopped out, because normally when price comes, it rejected, and what happened? It finally broke above the zone there. So this was a losing trade, and this is a winning trade. Remember, our risk to reward ratio is massive, guys. So if you can get 1:4, 1:5 in a trade, meaning if you lose one trade, it's not going to be a challenge, right? So at this point, we get that. So now let's look at what price is currently playing out. So if you look at the H1 time frame, remember we started from the daily time frame. Okay, from the daily time frame, that's what we had, and we saw that okay, this zone was respected. And now looking at the fact that price is still pulling back. Okay, now you can see that this is a trend line which price could possibly get to, but this will be long in the future because it's a daily time frame trend line, right? So what you do here, what are you going to do? You can still connect these lows here. Remember, when price respect a zone, once price creates a behavior more than once around a zone, it becomes a potential setup in the future, right? Because here it has rejected once, twice. You can see now that once it became once and twice, the third time it already became a rejection. That's why you see that price was able to break out like that, because price could possibly be coming back to respect this trend line for us to buy, or price could be coming back, let's reduce this, price could be coming back to this zone here to break out. So it could either give us something like this, it could come here, reject and give us a buy, or it could come, reject, and then we will sell, and while we are targeting this next trend line below here, because we know that could act as well our support. So that is your knowledge. Now you will have to play with the current market structure that we have in place. We know at the back of our mind that the overall trend is an uptrending market. Okay, so at this point, what do we want to see? We want to see now that price has come to the zone, and we want to see what good rejection candles. Okay, you can see there we have good rejection candles there. Alright, so what do? We go long here, because at this time price has acted as support. Now we have our first target here, we have our second target, which is this high somewhere here, right? So we want to be targeting this high there, and then we have our stop loss a little bit below this zone here. Alright, and then we play out to see if we are going to win or lose. Okay, we get stopped out here. So we get stopped out. What happened at this point? We want to either see if price retests the zone. Okay, price retests the zone or otherwise. And if you look very well, you are going to see that okay, we have another possible trend line. I don't want to just draw too many trend lines so that you guys don't get confused, but you understand that here we are trading both trend line breakout and how trend line retest zones. Okay, so we want to see if this price end up creating another high, then we will use this high. We are going to modify this low now to be our new zone where we are going to be looking for our entries. So at this point, if you want to, you can just add a trend line here, but we want to see if that zone creates a high. Okay, all right, so if you extend this a little, you see what happened here. Okay, this was an entry opportunity based on this trend line. Let's just extend the trend line that we already have here based on this time frame. You see that here price rejected once, twice, so this is an entry opportunity here. We got stopped out here, we entered here. Okay, remember we are scalping. So at this point in time, this is not the main trade that we take. This is a possibility that, in fact, that was a trade that was taken already. Okay, you can see there that price actually acted like this, and I told you guys, you see what happened? Price come right down to the level of this trend line, because at this point, remember our focus was that if price breaks from here, we can be targeting this zone here, right? So meaning that what? There are people who do aggressive entry. So you see that price came induced, broke out. There are other people who might just enter based on this breakout, but our entry is based on this other trend line here that got respected, because at this point in time, once price reject once, twice, from the third time, what happened? It drops and we get this move. Okay, at this point in time, when price rejected, you can see that we rejected and broke out. It went up, came back, induced. This is inducement, showing that what this trend line was strong enough to repel price. But when you break out, another trader here who enters aggressively will just take their sell trades like that. Okay, we'll just take the sell trade like that. And remember, I explained this earlier on that we had the possibility of targeting something like this. Oh, this is supposed to be short. Okay, so we have a possibility of targeting something like this, where we just hold it, like we drag it down to this one here, where because this breakout now. Remember, we are doing our entry now because based on smaller time frames, we have price pulling back. We are in a pullback phase. We know that from a bigger time frame, we have an overall uptrending market. So before price gets to this zone, remember the first trend line that we drew was a daily time frame, guys. How long is it going to take for price to get back to this trend line? Are we going to stop trading until we get? No, we can go to smaller time frame. That is why I'm sharing with you guys how we're able to identify other zones and then still catch other trading setups. Alright, so at this point in time, let's play out and see what price action does. Price action comes back to this trend line again, and then around the zone we saw a rejection. Okay, let's extend this trend line a little bit. Let's extend this trend line a little bit like this, and let's see what price does. Remember, these are minor trend lines, right? They can easily get broken, right? They easily get broken, and we don't want to dwell too much on minor trend lines. When they get rejected a couple of times, they become obsolete. So at this point in time, what happened here is that price has started creating new price action. So you can see from here now that what happened, we already have some other equal lows that are being created. So what we do is simply connect, guys, because this is price action, pure price action. So when you connect like this, it already tells us that okay, price came back. If you want to adjust this trend line a little bit, you see that if you want to look at it critically, you see that this trend line actually repelled price. So this is a major trade here. If you look at it critically, you see that this trend line actually repelled price. So meaning this was a major setup here, which if we want to consider it, we are going to be taking like this, and then we are going to be extending it right up to this zone, because this is the major trend line that we are looking for, right? So at this point in time, what happened in a smaller time frame, what we want to see here is we want to see that okay, price actually respect this other trend line. So now we have already identified, you can see this trend line already got broken. Some people, you can still take your buy trade there, whatever, if you want to enter, because this is a minor trend line. We don't want to do too much, so you can continue by taking another setup here. You take your buy trade here, okay. You want to target this high, put it like this, because once price reject from that zone more than once, it becomes a setup. Look at that, guys, look at that. That was massive already. So at that point in time, you see how price moved. So we move, though sometimes if you enter, you want to be targeting this highs here, but we just wanted to extend it because we already see that we have strong bullish momentum coming from this very strong trend line that has been drawn from a bigger time frame. So at this point in time, what do you want to do here, guys? This is a complete master course, a practical complete master course. These things I have not previewed them. I'm just doing live trading, as you can see here, because I have not previewed them. I'm just doing what I'm seeing price playing out and then sharing me. Remember, we are on that other trade that is just massive, this one here. Okay, we consider this to be a trade that we took based on this level here. So at this point in time, let's see, we are expecting now that price will come back here, the fourth time for us to be looking for entries. Okay, so this is our zone there, which price comes back to. Okay, and do we have the touch? Okay, we don't have the touch yet, or rather let's just connect it very well, and then see, we are going to see if you have the touch, because that was potentially another entry opportunity if we have to connect and then get the touches very well. Okay, all right, so let's say we did not get the touch at that point. You don't get the touch at that point, or if you use the two trend line methods that I explained earlier, for some people who usually use two trend lines, some will draw from the wicks and other will draw from the wicks and include another trend line. This is another possible entry based on that entry model. So at this point in time, this is where we have our current price of gold. So just look at it, just by understanding this nature of trend lines, guys. Look at trading setups, look at trading setups. You have to just understand that simply the price react more than once in a trend line, it gives opportunity. If you look at it very well, you see that okay, this is a major zone. Look at this, is already giving us what, more than 1 is to how many risk to reward ratio, and we have a possibility that this is going to move right up to this zone. So this video is good for day traders, swing traders, you know, as you can imagine, because if you are waiting for this daily, this is a swing trade, going to smaller time frame, 15 minutes, looking for this kind of entries, breakouts and entries. Price comes reject, you are actually scalping or trading as a day trader. Now if you look at it, you want to expand further, you can see that above here, look guys, we have a resistance above here. Connect like that, that's a resistance. And if you look at it very well, you see that it is actually repelling price. See how price is rejecting from it. And if you want to continue further to take it from this low below, you will see that this was a key support. Look at it, this was a support level. This was a support level, guys. This is the mastery. You can see that price rejected one because we had this impulsive move, and then as price was pulling back, what happened? Price was rejecting once, twice, thrice. So you could buy here and exit there. You could still buy here and exit here. So this is a trading setup. It's a trading setup here. This is a trading setup, right? So I didn't want to just include everything, but understand the basics. When you start, you can see that now we have had a lot of trading setups just by understanding general trend lines. It's not, they no longer trade trend lines like the traditional ways where we used to demonstrate here on YouTube, where we only draw one trend line here and wait for centuries for price to come back to this particular trend line. You can get many setups back, because as price action interacts, whenever it creates support or resistance, it will give a particular opportunity either to break. So we do see that we do a daily time frame analysis. From the daily, we mark out what the key level, and then we mark out the key level, we drop to smaller time frame. Anywhere price creates troughs and peaks more than once, we connect them. and we will connect them. What happened? We are expecting trend lines to come or price to either break or respect it. So you can choose to trade just breaks or to wait for price to respect this once you take your trades, guys. This was a master complete class of live trading, live backtesting with you guys, and I hope you learned something from the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure that you comment below, tell us what are your thoughts and all of that, and also make sure that you subscribe to this channel if this is your first time seeing my face. Remember, the link to our free Telegram channel is in this video description below. Just click and then you join our channel for free. Right, Trading with Kingsley signing out. See you in the next video.